What you are currently looking at is quite possibly the most overpowered tank to ever enter testing in World of Tanks Blitz. It's known as the XM66F, a Tier 10 American collector tank destroyer. A vehicle that has a very high possibility of being the Blitz Fair reward this year, but I guess we'll have to find out. There's only 4 months away till December as it is, so I'm equally excited and very scared to see how Wargaming ends up balancing the tank. In today's video, we are going to be breaking into the statistics that have been released on the vehicle from Wargaming servers, and I'm going to be talking about how the tank looks outrageously broken currently. I do have a feeling it's going to be nerfed by the time it does come into the game, but you never know when it comes to Wargaming, so yeah, let's get straight into it. Let's get into the stats. Let's first of all, very briefly though, before we talk about the stats, talk about the design of the vehicle. It's really a weird design. It's kind of like an E4 turret that was rounded out, and then a T95 E6 hull. It's just an absolutely awkward tank to look at. You can see a picture of it down there on the icon, and yeah, it's just a really weird vehicle. Now, I'm going to move my face a little bit, so when we talk about the stats, it doesn't block the stats at all. And let's talk about, first of all, what the gun has going for it, the mobility and everything, and then we'll talk about its hit points and armor, because I actually have the armor values on PC, so we can compare them to probably how it's going to be in Blitz. Let's start off with the gun, because this is a tank destroyer after all, and oh boy, does this gun seem busted. Now, when it comes to the penetration, it's actually the worst for any Tier 10 tank destroyer in the game. It's actually closer to Tier 8 tank destroyer pen values. I mean, the standard is good, it's 270. That's quite good. But the premium, oh, 310? Yeah, that's not very good. This is obviously running gun rammer, so if you run calibrated shells, you can get it up to about 340, which, yeah, you'd probably want to do. Again, this is a tank destroyer. So you might wonder, how much DPM do you get? Well, 3,948. You can see it at the top there. Yeah, 3,948 on a turreted tank destroyer that features 10 degrees of gun depression. What the heck? Yeah, this vehicle has 410 damage per shot and is going to feature a 6.23 second reload. What? That is insane. So sure, it might not feature the highest alpha. It might not feature the most pen, but it has absolutely crazy DPM and a stupid fast reload. The aiming time is pretty poor at 4.3 seconds, but we can see the dispersion is actually decent at 0.326. When it comes to the top speed, the vehicle reaches a top speed of 45 and a reverse of 20? What? So the vehicle has ridiculous DPM. It's got crazy good gun depression, and what the heck is this mobility? 45 and 20 in reverse, averaging 30 and a power weight of 16.1. The turret turns at 24 degrees a second, which is pretty dang fast, and add that into a hull traverse is 40 degrees a second. What am I reading? This tank seems busted. Now, I should point out the turret only turns 45 degrees to the left and to the right. That's more like 183 levels of turret traverse. In fact, I can showcase what that turret traverse looks like on Tank TG. Yeah, it's not a lot, let's be real. That's not the craziest amount. Now, this is 30 degrees, so it's a bit more than this, but yeah, it's not a crazy amount of turret traverse you're going to be featuring for this vehicle. Probably the gun will be about here, so nothing absolutely crazy, and that will most likely be one of the bigger downsides of the vehicle. Think of it like a Minotauro when it comes to the turret design and overall how it's going to turn. Now let's talk about the biggest thing, because we've already seen the gun, right? The gun looks pretty busted, but it does suffer a bit on pen. It's got great gun depression, which a lot of American vehicles do, and mobility-wise, tank seems stupid beyond belief. So you might think, okay, it doesn't have a lot of armor. Well, at least on paper, it says the turret is around 260 millimeters thick. Thankfully, if we make our way over to World of Tanks PC, we can actually take a look at the armor profile of this vehicle, as it's already implemented into the game as a Tier 8 premium tank destroyer. Now you might be like, wait a sec, it's a Tier 8, how's the armor going to compare? Well, we can actually see on paper how it's going to compare. It's 230 mils thick on the front of the turret, so about 30 millimeters off from what we have in Blitz, and we can see that the hull is 95 instead of the 120. So yeah, it's obviously worse armor as a tier 8 than it is what Blitz is conceiving as a tier 10. But wait until you see the armor, because even though it's 30 mils less, it is ridiculously strong. We can see that the weakest parts of the turret cheeks on this vehicle are upwards of 380 millimeters thick. What? Yeah, and this is with a weaker turret. Holy crap, this thing looks insane. Now, obviously, the hull looks trash, and that's gonna be quite a big problem with this vehicle. No matter how strong this turret is, no matter how much gun depression you use, if you just slightly showcase your hull, even while fully hull down, yeah, you're very easily going to cut through this. Now, sure, it's going to be quite a bit stronger, about 25 mils stronger on the upper plate, and if you add in the angling, yeah, it's probably going to be more like 300 mils thick, fully hull down as a tier 10, but even then, it's still going to be quite easy to pen if you just load premium, especially on flat ground. The entire upper and lower plate of this vehicle are going to be massive weak spots. So I do think that is going to be a rather big balancing factor of this vehicle. If we take a look at the actual weak spots on the tank, though, we do have some big ones. First of all, this box that exists right on the side of the turret. I didn't notice this until looking at the actual armor profile, but we can see it right there, right on the edge. So this box does exist, and it's probably going to be a weak spot on the tank, kind of like how the Kampfpanzer 70 has that big old box as well that you can penetrate. We can also see that, yes, those hatches are big, and they are very weak. In fact, it looks like the majority of Hess shells are quite easily going to cut right through this. In fact, if you hit the roof of it, maybe even 150 mil HE rounds. But again, if you don't hit these weak spots, the tank is going to be nearly impervious. Now, there is one other noticeable weak spot that I found, and that is the actual gun shield around the mantlet. We can see that that is a fairly weak spot. If you load heat, we can see just how weak it is there. So this does appear like it's a rather substantial weak spot that might actually exist on the tier 10 that we're going to get in Blitz. I don't know, but it does look like it might be a decent-sized weak spot. Obviously, again, this is where you're going to want to shoot, though, as that's most likely the biggest weak spot available. But look at this tank's turret armor. We are currently looking at this vehicle with the WZ-113 featuring 340 mils of heat pen. This is the most pen you're going to find for a heavy on PC in tier 10. This is a tier 8, and its armor is ridiculous on the turret. So, yeah, in Blitz, the armor is going to be even stronger on the turret, and I am quite under the belief that this thing is going to be an absolute menace on the battlefield. I'm not sure how to state my opinion on the tank, because the hull looks dookie, but the turret looks insane. But again, it's not a fully traversing turret, which means if you do get to the sides, yeah, it's bad on the sides. And the rear, holy crap, look at the size of this thing's rear. And we can see that the rear armor is not going to be very strong, 40 mils thick and 90 mils on the side. So yeah, this is pretty realistic. That entire booty of this vehicle is just going to be tragic. Look at the size of it. And again, the sides are, yeah, they're going to be bad too. They're not going to be this weak at 50, but they will be 90 mils thick. Yeah, so essentially insanely strong from the front, tragic on the sides, and tragic on the rear. The track wheels also look pretty dang weak, as we can see. So, I don't really know. The tank looks kind of busted, but at the same time kind of weak. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. But, yeah, I don't really know. It's a weird looking tank.